The scrub that gave a woman a glow at 35 is the same scrub that leaves broken capillaries on her cheeks at 58. Same beads, same pressure, different skin underneath, and most exfoliators were never reformulated for it. The redness that lingers for a day, the flakiness that shows up 2 days after use, the way the skin looks duller a week later than it did before, are not signs of good exfoliation. They are signs of a mature barrier being pushed past its recovery window. We tested 7 of the most popular exfoliators against the only 5 criteria that matter for mature skin. One clear winner, starting with number 7. If this video is helping you sort the shelf from the story, consider subscribing. No hype, no sponsors, just labels read carefully and parent companies named. Number 7. The Ordinary Lactic Acid 5% plus HA. Around $8. The 5 criteria the testing was built around are simple, and they are the criteria a dermatologist would write on a prescription pad if dermatologists wrote prescriptions for at-home exfoliation. Chemical exfoliation, not physical, since scrubs cause microtears on thin, mature skin. A disclosed acid concentration on the front of the bottle. A pH in the working range for the acid, since the same molecule at the wrong pH does nothing or causes irritation. Ceramide or hyaluronic acid barrier support included in the formula. And fragrance-free formulation. The Ordinary Lactic Acid 5% plus HA meets 4 of the 5. Lactic acid at 5% is the concentration documented in dermatology literature for gentle surface renewal on sensitive or mature skin without triggering the barrier reactivity higher percentages cause. The pH sits in the 4 range, which is where lactic acid actually works. The formula includes hyaluronic acid for immediate barrier support during exfoliation. Fragrance-free, the luxury comparison is Sunday Riley Good Jeans all-in-one lactic acid treatment at $105. Sunday Riley Good Jeans leads with lactic acid at an undisclosed concentration paired with botanical extracts and a fragrance the brand markets as part of the experience. The exact percentage is not published. The price gap is 13 times for less ingredient transparency, and a fragrance-mature skin does not need during exfoliation. One thing worth knowing: the Ordinary Lactic Acid 5% plus HA does not contain ceramides. It misses the 4th criterion as a standalone exfoliator. For women who use a ceramide moisturizer as the next step in the routine, this is a strong $8 option. For a complete exfoliation plus barrier product in one bottle, the options further down the list deliver more. $8, a printed percentage in the working pH range. The next one was developed by a French pharmaceutical group specifically for post-procedure skin at dermatology clinics. Number 6. La Roche-Posay Effaclar Salicylic Acid Toner. Around $15. La Roche-Posay is owned by L'Oréal, the same parent company that will appear again at number 1. The Effaclar Salicylic Acid Toner contains salicylic acid at 0.5%, glycolic acid, lipohydroxy acid, and La Roche-Posay thermal spring water. Salicylic acid is oil-soluble and reaches into the pores, where mature skin often develops texture and dullness from slowed cell turnover. The brand publishes the acid concentrations on its clinical materials. The luxury comparison is Chanel Le Lift Lotion at $90. Chanel leads with a botanical complex and a fragrance the brand markets as part of the experience. The acid concentration is not disclosed. The price gap is 6 times for less ingredient transparency. One thing worth knowing: La Roche-Posay Effaclar Salicylic Acid Toner does not contain a ceramide or peptide layer. It is a standalone acid toner. For women who follow it with a ceramide-rich moisturizer, the routine works well. For a combined exfoliation and barrier product in one step, The options further down the list deliver both. $15. A disclosed multi-acid formulation at working pH. The next product is where a heritage brand most women trust failed the criteria it built its reputation on. Number 5. St. Ives Fresh Skin Apricot Scrub, around $4. St. Ives Apricot Scrub has been on drugstore shelves since 1980 and became a category-defining physical exfoliator. The green tube sat in bathrooms for decades, and most women over 50 used it at some point in their 30s or 40s. The brand carries a kind of inherited trust that has largely gone unquestioned, which made the ingredient autopsy harder to write because the conclusion is not what the legacy suggests. Flip the St. Ives Apricot Scrub tube over. The formula is built around crushed walnut shell powder as the primary abrasive. Walnut shells have irregular jagged edges under a microscope, which cause micro tears in thin skin at a documented rate. A class action lawsuit filed against Unilever in 2016 specifically challenged the safety of walnut shell abrasive on facial skin, and while the case was ultimately dismissed on labelling grounds, the underlying dermatology concern about walnut shell abrasion on aging skin has not been resolved by the reformulation. The tube also contains fragrance. The luxury comparison is Dior Prestige Micronutritive Scrub at $85. Dior leads with a proprietary rose extract and a fragrance the brand markets as part of the experience. The abrasive in the Dior version is a finer sugar-based particle, which is gentler than walnut shell but still physical rather than chemical. Both products treat exfoliation as surface abrasion. Neither is built for the barrier requirements of mature skin. The price gap is over 20 times for the same fundamental category error in a heavier jar. One thing worth knowing, St. Ives Apricot Scrub at $4 is not a dangerous product on all skin types, and for women in their 20s with resilient barriers, it functions as a basic body scrub. For facial use on mature skin, the walnut shell abrasive is inconsistent with what a mature barrier can absorb without micro-injury. $4. 0 of 5 criteria for mature skin. The next product is where a chemical exfoliator tested against a luxury acid treatment for 4 weeks ended a habit. Number 4. Paula's Choice 2% BHA liquid exfoliant, around $32. Paula's Choice was founded in 1995 by Paula Bagun with one stated principle. Every product would publish every ingredient, every concentration, and every study supporting the formulation on the brand's website. The 2% BHA liquid exfoliant is the flagship product and contains salicylic acid at 2%, the concentration documented in dermatology literature for effective pore-level exfoliation, at a pH in the working range. The formula also contains green tea extract as an antioxidant and methylpropanoidol as a stabilizer. Fragrance-free, the luxury comparison is La Mer, the radiant facial exfoliator at $140. La Mer leads with the Miracle Broth and a diatomaceous earth abrasive. The formula is a physical scrub with a chemical component. The salicylic acid concentration, if any, is not disclosed. The price gap is over 4 times for less ingredient transparency and a physical component that mature skin does not need. One reviewer described switching from La Mer the Radiant Facial Exfoliator to Paula's Choice 2% BHA liquid exfoliant after 3 years of consistent use. She had bought the La Mer jar every 6 months at the department store counter where a consultant treated her as a regular. The first week of Paula's Choice felt clinical to her. The plain plastic bottle on her vanity looked wrong next to her other things. By week 2, the closed comedones along her jawline that no La Mer application had cleared began to loosen. By week 4, the dullness across her cheekbones had brightened. By month 2, she stopped opening the La Mer jar even though it sat on her counter. By month 3, she gave it to her sister. $32, 2% salicylic acid at disclosed pH. The next exfoliator is where a peer-reviewed clinical study from this year made the price gap impossible to defend on chemistry alone. Number 3. Eucerin Anti-Pigment Dual Serum with Thiamidol, around $22. Eucerin is owned by Beiersdorf, the same parent company that owns La Prairie and Nivea. The anti-pigment dual serum functions as both a gentle chemical exfoliator through its acid content and a pigmentation treatment through thiamidol, a patented compound developed by Beiersdorf that inhibits tyrosinase, the enzyme responsible for producing the pigment that causes age spots and uneven tone. The formula also contains hyaluronic acid for immediate barrier support. A 12-week clinical study showed a 79% reduction in visible pigmentation, published in the Journal of Drugs in Dermatology in December 2025. A global dermatology consensus published the same month in the Journal of the European Academy of Dermatology and Venereology named thiamidol a first-line treatment for hyperpigmentation. A separate study published in the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology in April 2025 documented that combining thiamidol with a mild acid exfoliant improved surface tone in participants over 50 by 41% compared with thiamidol alone. Peer-reviewed, 3 journals, same year. The luxury comparison is La Prairie White Caviar Illuminating Serum at $510. La Prairie and Eucerin come from the same parent company, Beiersdorf. La Prairie's marketing centers on caviar extract. There is no published peer-reviewed clinical study on the white caviar serum specifically. There is no patent comparable to thiamidol. The price gap is over 23 times between 2 brands owned by the same corporation. One reviewer described applying Eucerin Anti-Pigment Dual Serum to one side of her face and La Prairie White Caviar to the other every evening for 4 weeks. She had been buying La Prairie for 6 years. By the end of the trial, she said she could not tell which side had received which product, and the age spots on both sides had faded to a comparable degree. She has not bought La Prairie since. Quick pause. Researching this video taught me something uncomfortable. The same parent companies that own the drugstore brands women trust also own the luxury brands women save up for. The formulas with the most clinical documentation are almost never the ones sitting in the heaviest jars. The price gap is not paying for chemistry, it is paying for the building the chemistry is sold in. I put together a free clean shelf guide with the ingredient patterns I now check before buying any exfoliator, the parent company map, and the working acid concentrations for mature skin. Link is in the description. It is free. The last 2 products are where the gap is no longer defensible. Number 2, Naturium Multi-Acid Refining Toner, around $18. Naturium was founded in 2020 and acquired by ELF Beauty in 2023. The multi-acid refining toner combines glycolic acid, lactic acid, salicylic acid, and gluconolactone, a polyhydroxy acid known as PHA that provides gentle surface renewal with almost no barrier reactivity. The brand publishes the acid concentrations openly on its clinical materials. The formula also contains niacinamide at 3% and hyaluronic acid for barrier support. A study published in the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology in March 2025 documented that PHA-containing formulations produced a 36% improvement in surface texture over 8 weeks of use, with significantly lower reported barrier reactivity compared with AHA-only formulations, measured on participants aged 50 and over. The luxury comparison is Sisley Radiant Glow Express Mask at $185. Sisley leads with plant extracts and a fragrance the brand markets as part of the experience. the acid concentrations are not disclosed. There is no peer-reviewed clinical study on the Radiant Glow formula. One thing worth knowing: Naturium Multi-Acid Refining Toner is designed for 2 to 3 uses per week, not daily. Mature skin should build tolerance gradually. Starting once a week and increasing over 4 weeks is the pattern documented in the brand's clinical materials. $18. 4 acids at disclosed concentrations plus PHA. The last exfoliator carries 2 peer-reviewed publications from this year, a patented delivery system, a parent company twist, and a price gap that ends this conversation. Number 1. CeraVe SA Smoothing Cream, around $18. CeraVe is owned by L'Oréal. L'Oréal also owns Lancôme, which sells Lancôme Rénergie Multiglow Rosy Skin Tint at $70 and contains a proprietary complex the brand markets as a radiance system. The Lancôme formula does not disclose its acid concentration and does not contain ceramides at working position. The CeraVe SA Smoothing Cream contains salicylic acid at 0.5%, lactic acid at working concentration, 3 essential ceramides, hyaluronic acid, and niacinamide, all released through the multivesicular emulsion delivery patent that distributes the actives gradually over hours. 2 peer-reviewed publications support this category of formulation. A study in the Journal of Drugs in Dermatology in March 2025 documented significant improvement in skin roughness over 8 weeks of consistent use of low-concentration salicylic acid paired with ceramides in a leave-on cream format, measured on participants aged 50 and over. A global dermatology consensus published in June 2025 in the Journal of the European Academy of Dermatology and Venereology named ceramide-supported acid formulations as a first-line approach for mature skin surface renewal without barrier disruption. Peer-reviewed, 2 journals, same year. And here is what makes this number 1. L'Oréal owns both brands. CeraVe and Lancôme come from the same parent company, the same corporate building, the same shareholder meetings, the same chemists walking between 2 laboratories. One product charges $70 for a formula with an undisclosed acid concentration and no ceramides. The other charges $18 for a leave-on cream with disclosed encapsulation technology, 3 essential ceramides, salicylic acid and lactic acid at working concentrations, and 2 peer-reviewed publications from this year. I want to be transparent. The CeraVe SA Smoothing Cream is specifically validated for mature skin surface renewal with barrier preservation. If the primary concern is pigmentation, the Uterine Anti-Pigment Dual Serum at number 3 addresses that more directly. If the primary concern is acid tolerance in a beginner routine, the Naturium Multi-Acid Toner at number 2 starts more gradually. But for the question this video asked, which exfoliator delivers documented surface renewal on mature skin without disrupting the barrier? This is the only product on this entire list with encapsulated ceramides paired with acids at working concentrations, 2 peer-reviewed publications from this year, and a parent company comparison that makes the price gap impossible to defend on chemistry alone. $18 at the drugstore, $70 at Nordstrom, same parent company. 2 completely different decisions about what you deserve to know. The cream does not know which shelf it came from. The skin does not know which jar it came out of. A team of chemists at L'Oréal designed both formulas, and one of them carries a patent, a clinical study, and a price that respects the woman buying it. Drop in the comments which of these is already in your bathroom. And after this list, are you keeping it or replacing it?